Koreans don't eat dog anymore, does that mean you're less of Koreans? I don't think so. Plus, it's not the majority of people who are hunting whales and eating them. It's the majority of animals is like McDonald's culture and fast food culture. That's what consumes all this meat, right? Not people who are culturally hunting and stalking these animals in order to maintain their lifestyle. So that's just like nonsense, right? So don't buy into this, oh, we are defending the culture of people argument, because that doesn't make sense whatsoever. But secondly, they don't have a response to how it is worse off for other people, right? Toshi's response to the environment thing is, what if there are too many whales and they become the cockroaches of the sea? Therefore, we need to kill them. That argument doesn't really work, because it's a lie. Right? So on both levels then, we've showed you that, sure, it may be a hard choice to make. The only thing left then is that people like to eat meat. And we concede that. We say yes, people do. People enjoy it. The taste, it's wonderful. And if you can find some other way to make non-meat taste like meat, people will do that. But that's the only thing that they have, that people like to eat meat. On the other side, we said it's non-ethical, it's healthier for you, it's better for the environment. We're not forcing people to do those things. But when you make those comparisons, would it be better as a human being, even if it's really hard for us to do, to say we gave up the liking to eat meat for all of these other benefits? Does that make us better? We think, yes, it does make us better.
I invite the opposition leader.
Mr. Chair, affirmative side can't demonize humanity, and especially opposition side, for creating things to be killed, as Logan put it. Because under that logic, everything that we create, even babies, will eventually die. But that doesn't mean it is unethical to allow the creation of these things. Because really, the existence of it and the way it complements humanity in our lives is already in itself a value, and I'll show you that later when I conclude this debate. Because the first thing that we have to be very clear on is that it's never unethical to organize the natural cycle of life. There are preys and there are predators, and we simply organize it with having domesticated animals produced massively to accommodate the massive amount of human beings alive in today's society. It's not unfair, Mr. Chair, to want to enjoy your life while you're still alive, given you're not going to live forever. We think they're blaming humanity way too much for things that they should have the access to begin with. Being sentient beings doesn't mean that you have no choice whether or not you want to enjoy your life more than an animal would, because they have less capacity to think. We think we all have these rights and we all have the equal amount of responsibility for this earth. That's why we're not going to put a bigger burden on humanity. But to address the debate, first, let's go into the two issues that I want to resolve. First is the question, is it ethically wrong to consume animal products to begin with? And second, where do we better the quality of human lives as a whole? Let's first go to the issue of ethics. Because the Prime Minister came up and said it's ethically unacceptable to consume animals, without first addressing the assumption that the consumption in itself means cruelty. Because that's the biggest problem with their side. They assume that coming from opposition, we're okay to torture these animals before you eat them. We're not saying that. That's why we're still going to uphold animal rights. We're still going to make sure they're as comfortable as possible and they're not going to be tortured before we eat them. But at the same time, we want to balance this with that of human needs. The same way, Mr. Chair, we're going to crack down on these cruelty, on animal cruelty, until we're still going to crack down on animal cruelty. We're not going to stop doing so. But eating meat and slaughtering animals properly isn't ethically wrong. In fact, what is the basis of their ethic to begin with? If you think about it, if it's because of the harm and the hurt these animals will be enduring because they're slaughtered, then in the end, Mr. Chair, we're not going to be allowed to hurt a cockroach as well, because it's going to hurt them as well. We're not going to be allowed to eat animals when scientists have already plants, Mr. Chair, because there have been studies showing that even plants have feelings in the end. So does that mean we eat nothing now because we can't hurt anything forever? That's unfair, Mr. Chair, especially given that the natural cycle of life already recognizes that it's not unethical to want to consume something. Because under their model, we're all going to hell, even bacteria are immoral for wanting to consume something alive as well. We think in the end, it's unfair to put that kind of burden on humanity just by virtue of us being able to think differently. It's unfair, that's why we're not going to stand by it, stay standing. But beyond that, we look at the entire concept of how government side or opposition side is hypocritical because we want animal rights. That means we should be able to apply it across borders. That's not true. Because we want to celebrate animal rights doesn't mean that we're going to place a blanket policy already. Because it simply means being able to allocate things properly as well. It means we protect animals more when we have more need of them. We protect animals more when they're property of a specific person, i.e. your pets cannot be kidnapped or pet-napped in the end. These are things that we're still going to uphold, but we recognize that animal rights will always be allocated by specific individuals based on the needs for these animals. Go.
But if the main justification for consumption of animals is the human enjoyment of their consumption, then how do we set any kind of enforceable limits on how to raise those animals and how to tend to them?
Mr. Chair, just because we concede that, we have to protect these animals, that doesn't mean that we completely ban it. Because fine, it's a very blurry line, wanting to be able to tell people not to hurt animals, especially if it's going to give them pleasure. But that doesn't mean that that line shouldn't exist, even if it is blurry. Even if it's a gray line, even if we're always going to debate about where that line should be, that doesn't mean that we erase that line completely the way they want to. But then the Prime Minister said that people are conscious and sentient beings, which should make us responsible for these animals. Never mind that we already kill pests, given the fact that we kill pests because they harm our lives, right? We don't let mosquitoes keep on biting us just because it's part of their life cycle. The reason for this, Mr. Chair, is because we recognize that these animals still is a part of the cycle, right? That it's a part of the natural cycle that we're going to have to live. So the same way we have to protect ourselves from lions, we should have the ability to protect ourselves from animals. The same way lions need to survive on their other living things, we should have the same capacity to do so. Second issue, where do you better the quality of lives of individuals? The first level of this issue is in the question of individual choices, which is something, sit down, they poo-pooed altogether. Because the Prime Minister said it's better for people to eat vegetables as a whole. Never mind that they're assuming that meat in itself is unhealthy. Because if you think about it, anything excessive, when you eat something excessively, will become unhealthy. Eat carrots every day and you'll turn orange, Mr. Chair. It's not really a value in itself. Because if you want people healthier, the only thing you have to do is to tell them to eat a good diet, having meat as a part of it. In fact, when the vegetarian movement actually started, a lot of people who just turned vegetarian fainted because they didn't have enough protein inside their bodies. Because they never realized what they lost out without eating meat. Because really the promise of a longer life by virtue of eating vegetables in itself is dangerous, given the fact that it's no longer true. People who are vegetarians, who eat vegetables their entire life, die of cancer at 23. We think in status quo you shouldn't lie to individuals to make them think that this is the better option for longer lives, just by virtue of having vegetables. In fact, we think people should be allowed to enjoy their lives given how short it is. In fact, it's the entire argument coming from opposition that they completely forgot, the concept of quality of life. They seem to think it's unfair for people to just want things, to enjoy things. We don't think so coming from opposition. I think it's quite fair for people to want to make the most out of their short lives. And if it means eating a Mac burger or a Big Mac, we think it's just fair. We don't think it's quite unethical for people to be able to do so. Which is why in the second assertion on how we want to look at the external factors, such as the environment, how we compromise the environment because of endangered species. Let's be clear, we're not going to be eating pandas here, right? The animals that are endangered aren't the ones that we consume the most, really. If we're talking about whales, then we'll protect whales now that they're about to go extinct because we want to consume them in the future. It's really just that simple. We think that the protection of animals will always be based on human needs, and it's never unfair to do so, given that it's a natural cycle. Thank you.
We now have the replies, speeches, and we'll start with the opposition. NC will speak for 4 minutes. At 3 minutes there will be a warning clap, and at 4 minutes there will be 2 claps.
Mr. Speaker, there are two things they never understand in the debate, right? Firstly, their whole argument is about less consumption of the meat. It's not about whole banning the consumption of the meat, right? Like the safety issue, right? The environmental issue, right? All the things can be solved by less consumption of the meat, right? All three people is confused about that debate. This is not about less. This is about completely ban debate. Forget that. Don't forget about that, right? Secondly, they said physical satisfaction is nothing because we believe psychological satisfaction is always coming first, then physical satisfaction. I don't think they have a right to decide people's mind, people's satisfaction. Why animal rights, which is so psychological satisfaction, must come before the physical satisfaction, right? I don't think they made any distinction. With that, I have two issues in today's debate. First, principal issue. Secondly, practical issue. First, principal issue. They said we are the leader, right? That is why we must stop eating animals. And animal rights is proposed by the peoples. That is why we must stop the animal. But the thing is, none of these guys made a link between leader and not eating an animal. We gave you a lot of examples, right? Lion and tigers, all the leader of the animal eating other animals. Then why I cannot eat the animal? No response whatsoever. And we give you the ideas about why intelligent and bigger can have a reason for limiting their choices, right? All the things is the natural way. That is why we must let them do this. Let us eat the animals like samgyeopsal. Then we said we oppose cruel way to treat animals, right? Because eating animal is not bad. And they talked about how can you, like for sure, people is not going to cruel treatment of the animals. I don't think that is an issue of the debate, right? We regulate it, we propose animal rights. Since they say this is not practical debate, that must be done in the society. Because Logan Nesco's POI, right? This is not practical debate, this is the value debate. Then you must see the debate in the value way. I think we can do this in all the times, right? We give you the line between cruel animals, non-cruel animals. If you just eat the animals in the cages, then it is okay. But if you torture, if you make small cages and put in 700 families, like Logan said, we say that is the torture of the people, like animals. This is the common sense. I think everybody can understand, except all these three peoples, right? Then we said it is the choice. The argument they talked about in today's debate, you can propose, you can advertisement, you can campaigning to persuade the people, but you cannot force people to following their own way. Why? Because this is a nature way. When people following the nature way, government and state cannot force these people. Then they talked about animal rights. Then we talked about animal rights to human rights. Like my third speaker said, we can kick and kill the cockroaches, right? Because we don't like them in my living room, even if they don't hate me and harm me. But the thing is, why you cannot kill like big dog? And eating dog is okay, but your friend dog, the kidnapping is not okay. All the things shows you, this is all the animal rights is based on human need. That is why culture is matter in today's debate. That is why physical and physical satisfaction is the matter in today's debate. Yeah. And you cannot degrade other people's culture, other people's satisfaction because you are not the greater than other people. And moving on practical levels, right? We talked about culture. No response whatsoever, right? Only response was, we are not degrading. No, you degrading, right? If you said, my mommy, you cannot like serve your ancestor by the meat, my mom is going to be pissed, right? All the people is pissed when other people say, you cannot do this because it is harm human leader and leadership. I don't think there is a meaning something the people who is living in the local uphold their cultures. Then we talked about, we are protecting offspring. No response whatsoever. This is the problem coming from government. Mr. Speaker, they cannot propose something they think this is a greater than other thing. I don't think animal rights should always come first than other physical satisfaction. The many argument is not rebutted by these guys. For those reasons, I'm very proud of both resolutions.
We now have the reply speaker from the government.
Mr. Chair, let's adjudicate this debate by looking into on whose team have done, Mr. Speaker, a better job in responding to the setup of today's debate. On today's debate, it's not a debate on whether what we should and we should not do, Mr. Speaker, on what we should and we should not eat, Mr. Speaker. On today's debate, it was clear coming from the government side that this debate is about a particular situation, assuming that human beings have a choice, Mr. Speaker, to project in the near future whether or not it would be a better situation if we choose not to eat meat, Mr. Speaker, in order for us to achieve a better environment, as the Prime Minister have set up this debate a while ago. Whether that kind of environment where we protect all living individuals can be achieved, Mr. Speaker. And that's the debate. It's not really about satisfying your needs in the present situation. It's about us human beings trying to become a better human beings in the near future, Mr. Speaker. Now let's try to assess what happened in today's debate in two levels. Let's look into first, the environmental issues and whatnot, and second, let's talk about values and consistencies. On the first level, Mr. Speaker, let's talk about the environment. The entire opposition's bench, Mr. Speaker, talked about human instincts, the environmental setup, Mr. Speaker, why it is normal and okay for us to consume other living individuals, why it's normal for lions to eat other animals and whatnot. We agree on those kind of things, Mr. Speaker, that yes, those are human instincts. But then again, if you try to analyze the concept of human instincts, we have been clear coming from the government side that these are indeed instincts. And human beings can do better when it comes to making a decision out of these things, Mr. Speaker. Because what I'm saying is that, what we're trying to say coming from the government side a while ago, is that we have a choice whether or not we would continue consuming all of these things, or we have a choice also, Mr. Speaker, to fully provide what we've been advocating, which is animal rights for these living individuals. And we've been very consistent by telling you that these things are actually doable, Mr. Speaker. We could actually forego those kind of satisfaction that the opposition was saying. That indeed, yeah, it might be to some extent difficult to do, Mr. Speaker, but at the end of the day, if you try to analyze, we must actually achieve or decide to commit all of these hard decisions if we want to create change, Mr. Speaker, in the near future. And that's what we're trying to say in the government side, that these things are possible. It may be difficult at first, but then again, it is achievable. Something that the opposition didn't really respond, Mr. Speaker, because we've been talking about values coming from the government side. We've been talking about how to become a better human beings, Mr. Speaker, how to have a better civilization in the near future. They've been talking about that, no, what we're trying to say is that we want to satisfy the needs of individuals. Yes, we agree, you can do that. But how can you become a responsible person, Mr. Speaker, in satisfying your needs? Is there only a single way in doing that? Is it simply by, can we only achieve that by simply consuming all of these animals? Or is there a better way, Mr. Speaker? That's the kind of the debate that the government side has been trying to push forward in today's debate. That there is a better setup, Mr. Speaker. That given a choice, if human beings want to become better individuals, Mr. Speaker, and we want to have level up, or what we become better than our ancestors, Mr. Speaker, maybe this would be the best solution that we can have. Because we have already reached a certain point, Mr. Speaker, that we can even do whatever we want to do, clone whatever we want to do. Maybe we can fully maximize the advocacy that we're trying to promote for animals, which are their animal rights, Mr. Speaker. Because we've been saying that we need to care for them and whatnot. Maybe it's also possible, Mr. Speaker, not to kill them just because in order for us to promote the human rights that we've been talking about. Because at the end of the day, what we're saying is, yes, it's all about the choice, Mr. Speaker. And the choice can be made, and it would be a difficult choice, Mr. Speaker. But at the end of the day, what we're saying is, this is possible, and we think we can better achieve the setup that the Prime Minister told us a while ago, which would be a certain society or environment where we try to protect, not only to a certain degree that the opposition was saying, but in a full potential, Mr. Speaker, in a full manner, in protecting these animals to the point that we're not going to kill them, but at the end of the day, we still satisfy our own, because we've changed already our mentality, which we think which is possible in day-to-day, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Now I invite the team to shake hands.